The Biggie is celebrating 100 years. Peter Gray of East Longmeadow and owner of Peach Sweets is creating the cake of the century. All the details just ahead. Plus, get the inside scoop on the latest town meetings. From school committee to planning board, we have it all. And later, we reveal this week's local star. Find out what EL resident just landed a book deal. Also coming up, we talk events, and plenty of them. Kick off the school year the right way by getting involved and taking advantage of these fun and free programs. Those stories and much more ahead on ELCAT News Update. Thanks for tuning in to ELCAT News Update. I'm Rebecca Green. We begin the show with a grand reveal. Peter Gray, owner of Peach Sweets Candies and Baked Goods located on Shaker Road, will be making the Big E Centennial birthday cake. That's right, the Big E is celebrating 100 years. They're calling it a century of greatness. A few months back, Gray found out that he was chosen for this opportunity. To represent 100 years, Gray and his team researched for about 18 hours to create their master plan.
So originally I had the idea that I wanted to do a 10-tier cake. I wanted to make a tier for every decade. And then one hiccup came along when we were starting to plan out and map out what we were going to do. We decided that to make the scale replica food to size, that I needed to make it 11 tiers, like a spacer. So technically it's still 10 tiers, a tier for every decade, but it has that spacer in the middle so that I could fit all that realistic food, because to me, my favorite part of the Biggie is the food. We love making cakes, in general. We make lots of birthday cakes, anniversaries, weddings, but the opportunity to make something as fun and diverse as this is really, really exciting for us. We get to flex our creative muscles. We get to make fake foods and buildings and, just the overall, all the essence of the Biggie. It's so different, and coming all together in that melting pot. It's really neat to kind of pick out the most important ideas and what we find the most exciting and most interesting at the Biggie. And it was really neat to kind of do that vast, look on the cake. We got to kind of include everything. And really, 100 years, it's one of those things that not a lot of places or anything really gets to that milestone. So to celebrate it, we have tons of items to put on the cake.
The cake will be approximately 5 feet tall when completed. The cake will be a surprise to the public, as Gray's only revealing the sketch outline. Our ELCAT cameras and other media outlets were not allowed in the kitchen. However, Gray does share some fun facts about the cake.
It's going to be about 200 pounds of fondant. It's 10/11 tiers of cake. It's going to have over 20 replica foods on it. It's going to have 11 pounds of sprinkles and toppings on it. It's going to have 15 pounds of royal icing. It's going to have, in the end, it's going to have many figures and very, important things about the Biggie without revealing too much. All the classic things, everything that, we did a little poll online to see what people found to be the most exciting part of the Biggie, and things came back like the big slide and the hatchery and all the different fun elements aside from the food. So we're really, really excited to kind of show it off, and we're really, proud of the overall quality and sheer quantity of things that we've had to make for this cake.
Although the cake itself is a surprise, Peach Sweets is using social media to reveal some items, such as the famous turkey leg. Their Twitter and Facebook page allows community members to get involved through games and even a chance to win free tickets to the Biggie.
We're doing different contests. We're trying to do guess that item and bits and pieces from here and there. We're going to show some different ideas. We've shown the initial sketch of what it's going to look like, the artist rendering of it, and we're really excited to kind of build up some momentum for the cake and some excitement, but it's all going to come together so quickly in the end that we're really excited that we get to show it to the public very soon.
The Biggie's opening day is Friday, September 16th. Mark your calendars, because this is the day where the public finally gets to see the delicious masterpiece. The revealing of the cake will take place at the Big E Bash with Shaquille O'Neal at 7 p.m. on the Court of Honor stage. After opening night, the cake will then be on display in the International Building for the remainder of the fair. Although no one is allowed to eat the cake, Grace says it's a feast for the eyes.
Such an honor, really, to be able to do this for something that's, such a staple, and people come from all over to come to the Big E. So I was really honored to be picked to be able to do this, and it's just very exciting to see it all come together, because it's something I love to do and I've always loved to do, and to do something to represent something in Western Mass and the greater New England area is just so exciting.
Switching gears to town meetings, we take a look back at the latest Board of Public Works meeting, where DPW Superintendent Robert Parent gives the board an update on upcoming road repair.
Basically, the finishing the areas on the mains that we haven't crack sealed to date that are crack seal worthy. Some areas may be so far degraded that it's likely not worth investing in crack sealing. So you're generally looking at a road that's in relatively, good shape or moderate shape, where you can stretch the life of the road a bit more by sealing the cracks, keeping the water out of the roadway base, keeping the frost heaves down, things like that. So as you can see in these areas,
Summers, peas.
Summers, peas, yeah, the backside of peas now, or the west side of peas, where we did some of that milling and filling work last year. Pleasant Street from the Rotary up to top of the hill up to Indian Springs. We have one small section of North Main that we ran short on in terms of materials last year, so we were finishing that section. And then on Parker from Porter up to the Springfield line, up to the Allen Street intersection. And again, on Allen Street, last time around, we ran short in terms of the amount of Allen Street we could do with the budget that we had, so this will be finishing up the top piece of Allen Street. We're approaching 4 miles of crack sealing here, and that's typically what we've been doing. We're getting up to about 20 miles that we've done in the past 2.5 years at this point. And I think at this point, once we get our mains in decent shape, then we're starting to move into the side streets that are, again, in moderate to good shape, that are going to last a lot longer if we can invest some time and money in sealing those roadways. We focused on the mains first because the effect of a crack on a main is much more detrimental, because you've got much more traffic, much more pounding, much more frost heaving, and the road will break up a lot faster. But again, now that we're putting those behind us, we can start focusing on some of the more highly traveled side streets that would also benefit.
The crack sealing will protect our roads and, more importantly, the drivers. Another safety issue the board discussed was the Chestnut and Prospect Street intersection. Comments from a concerned resident made the board look at different possibilities on how to improve driver safety.
It's a unique intersection, as everybody knows. We have 3-way stops and one straight through on the eastbound approach on Chestnut Street, and that's sort of the way that I've always known it, but the board, I'm sure, has known it in other configurations over the years, and I guess I'd be interested in any observations you've had about what has worked over the years or what hasn't worked over the years. I think we can probably do some improved signage and some other types of things with what is there right now.
It used to be a 2-way stop sign,
Yep.
both on Prospect Street and Chestnut was 2-way. And at some point they decided that for safety purposes, if you stop that, is more concerned about that traffic coming up the hill, which you can't put a stop sign there because of the hill there. But cars were just all of a sudden showing up there, so if they knew the car on the other side was stopping going west on Chestnut, at least you don't have to worry about looking, and
There's a fair amount of fender benders. I mean,
yeah.
it just happens because people, I think a fair amount of it, I could be wrong, but I think a fair amount of it is they're coming out of Connecticut with 4-way stops, or returning to Connecticut with 4-way stops, and it's a 3-way stop. It's not a 4-way stop, but Connecticut is almost all 4-way stops, and people just get caught by it.
Right. There's probably 3 options. One option, leave it the way it is, but with better signage. Go back to the 2-way stop.
I don't think that makes sense.
No.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think it's the same way with better signage, or just go to a 4-way stop.
If we do something significant, then I think it'll be key to get the information out. Probably in the press, and maybe even some advanced signage and things like that warn drivers that, as of a certain date, we'd be making a change.
From streets to schools, the board discussed upcoming water testing in all school buildings and the electrical issues at Maple Shade School.
We are teaming up with the school department in terms of testing all fixtures in the schools, all of our schools that are used for potable purposes. So that's all drinking fountains, that's all kitchen sinks, that's all bubblers in the classrooms, things like that. We may find some fixtures that show a elevated level of lead, because it's an old fixture, bronze fixture, or lead solder or something like that. We will obviously be getting involved in having to upgrade or replace those fixtures.
I'm sure you all heard of the Maple Shade School kind of power issues we were having over there. On Monday, that breaker had tripped and could not get it reset. We ordered a new one Monday night, we received it 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning. We had that breaker installed by 12 o'clock. National Grid came out at around 3 o'clock, restored power, turned the new breaker on, and after probably about 20 minutes to a half hour, the breaker did trip again. I had a testing company come out, Standard Electric Testing, found that all our window air conditioning units over there, a lot of them are pretty old, is the cause of most of our problems over there. We have an unbalanced load. So the breaker is kind of a smart breaker. It's a GFI breaker. It has a little computer built into it, so it monitors all 3 phases plus the neutral and the grounds. So it was detecting an anomaly that was coming back onto the neutral, and this was caused by those air conditioning units. Our electrician on Friday will be balancing some of those kind of equations back to where they need to be, so we have a balanced load. So we're taking some of the major load is on phase A, so we're taking a lot of those air conditioning circuits and putting on phase C. So that's going to actually balance the load out across the board and keep our breaker happy, so it won't trip again. I'm also having Standard Electric Standard Electric Testing come out on Friday too, to actually do a little more extensive research within the building while there's no school in place, and check for grounding issues and any other anomalies that may occur within the building. So we're on top of it, we're understanding it, and making the necessary arrangements so that the problem won't happen again.
Speaking of the school department, let's take a look back at the latest school committee meeting. An ongoing topic was brought back for discussion, whether or not to switch the voting location for elections. A town election work group will research all possibilities and weigh out the pros and cons as to where the voting location should be. Superintendent Gordon Smith updates the board on the current situation.
So after our discussion at our last meeting, I went back and shared the highlights, so to speak, of our discussion with Tom Florence, town clerk, and Denise Menard, the acting town manager. And so they then filled in the town council at the meeting that very night, and so I think there is agreement, unanimous agreement, to continue the discussion, but not necessarily make a decision today, tomorrow, next week. But let's look at all possibilities and hopefully come up with a good transition plan for the elections that resolve some of the issues that the residents around Birchland brought up, but also doesn't necessarily create new challenges that could cause issues down the road.
Residents started the petition due to traffic concerns. This led the town to form the Town Election Work Group. The group will include the town manager, police chief, town clerk, school superintendent, recreation director, 1 town council member, and 1 school committee member. Moving on to another town meeting, the planning board also met last week. The board approved construction plans for a new medical office building to be located on North Main Street. The construction company for the medical building had to meet certain codes and requirements in order for fire trucks to safely enter and exit the area in case of an emergency. After several months of presentations and changes, Fire Chief Paul Morissette was able to approve the plans. Construction can now officially begin.
The turn radius right now on the drawings he submitted worked for us.
Okay.
The drawing is going to be stamped by Gary, and he's going to put a notation on there. When it comes to the turnaround for the fire department, there's some give on the fire department side, and talking with Gary, we can do that, drive in, do a do-si-do around the back side and back up, and we can get our trucks out of there.
Okay.
So we are, and he's gonna make a notation on the drawing, the stamp drawing, stating the codes that he's following with that, and you know, as long as that happens and it's built that way, the fire department's good on that side. You know.
Now it's time to uncover this week's local star. Christina Us of East Longmeadow recently received a publishing deal for her children's book, Adventures of a Girl Called Bicycle. Us joins us in the ELCAT studio to tell us more.
So the book is, it's a children's book for ages 8 to 12, and it's called The Adventures of a Girl Called Bicycle. And it's about a girl who rides her bicycle from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco, and along the way she's trying to learn the meaning of friendship and how do people make friends and how do you not make friends, what makes it happen, and she learns a lot of lessons and meets a lot of interesting people. It really is a mystery how people become friends, but if you do what you really love, other people who really love it will find you. And you guys, you may never understand why you're friends, but you will find friends. So that is kind of the underlying message. And also that it's fun to ride your bike. That would be the other message I would hope that kids get out of it too.
Us explains the publishing process and her inspiration behind the book.
I have been a freelance writer for a long time, and I brought along a lot of clips of magazines and other things I've written for. And my husband would watch me write, and I wrote a lot about bicycling. And he said, someday you're going to write a book about some kind of adventure. And I said, I am? What will be the title of this book? And he said, it'll be called The Adventures of a Girl Called Bicycle. And I said, I am going to write that book. I wonder what it's going to be about. I wonder who Bicycle is. What kind of adventures does she have? Well, I wanted to share, this was really where the story of my book began. This was not something I wrote, but something I was interviewed for back when the Republican was the Union News. I rode my bike across the United States. 20 years ago this year, I joined a group that was riding to raise funds and awareness for Habitat for Humanity, and we rode from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco, just like Bicycle does in my book. So I know everything that happened to her is very real. And I sat down and just said, I'm just going to write this before I had kids, and I had all this time. And that's what inspired me to do it. And I'd say I wrote it more than 10 years ago. It's kind of hard to believe, but kind of took that long to get to now when somebody wants to publish it. Because now you don't send it directly to a publisher, you find an agent, and then the literary agent sends it around, and she knows all the publishers, and she knows them personally. She knows who likes bicycling and who likes adventure stories. So I sent it out to a whole bunch of agents, probably 50 agents, like 10 at a time, and got this one person back who called me, and she said, I just couldn't put it down. And she said, I love it, and I have to represent you. And I couldn't believe it. So that's how it began. So my publishing house is called Farrar, Straus & Giroux, and the person who bought my book is named Margaret Ferguson. And she's been in publishing for over 20 years, and she sounds amazing. I can't wait to work with her. So I'm reading all her books that are in the library.
Adventures of a Girl Called Bicycle is expected to be out in spring 2018. We'll let you know in the near future where you can catch Christina Us at book signing events and more. The East Long Meadow Public Library holds several local author book signings throughout the year. On this segment of Library Learning, we learned from an inspirational speaker and best-selling author, Gabriella Bernstein, about how to live your happiest life. Bernstein is letting community members in on her secret about what tools are needed to be happy. Learn from the best and even enjoy a meditation session. The program takes place on Tuesday, September 20th at 6 p.m. in the library community room. The next upcoming library event is one that has been getting a lot of attention, Adult Coloring Group. Don't let your favorite childhood hobby fade away. Head over to the library for a fun and relaxing program. The library will provide all materials and no registration is required. See what the buzz is all about on Wednesday, September 21st at 12:30 p.m. Still in the mood for crafting? The library is also hosting their monthly program, Not Just Knitting. This drop-in workshop invites community members into a supportive atmosphere. Crochet, knit, cross-stitch, or work on any other needle project. The event takes place on Thursday, September 22nd at 10 a.m. in the library conference room. Even more events are happening in town for you to take part in. First, the Cornerstone Church is hosting a Family Fun Day. On September 17th, the Cornerstone Church welcomes families with young children to take part in games, crafts, a water slide, and a bounce house. The event will also have music and food. Families are asked to register through email to familyfundaycc@gmail.com. Family Fun Day takes place at 15 Kibbe Road from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on September 17th. We're calling all shopping lovers for this next two events. First, a farmer's market hosted by Brookdale, a senior living community here in town. Kicking off the fall season right, Brookdale's Farmer's Market will have all the favorite autumn goodies. The Apple Place located on Summers Road will have a booth set up to sell their famous apples, cider, and donuts. Also purchase local fruit, vegetables, and fall flowers. The Farmer's Market will be held at Brookdale, 741 Parker Street on Wednesday, September 21st at 2 p.m. In more shopping news, the East Long Meadow Senior Center is proud to announce their community tag sale, an event that will benefit the East Long Meadow Scholarship Foundation. Join in on a great cause on September 24th at the East Long Meadow Pleasant View Senior Center, located on North Main Street from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. From fall events to winter, the Recreation Department is pleased to announce that winter registration is now open. For those interested in participating in winter sports, such as basketball, swimming, wrestling, cheerleading, adult fitness, and more, then it's time to head over to the Recreation website and sign up. Register at elrec.recdesk.com. Well, that will do it for this edition of ELCAT News Update. Be sure to watch meetings on demand at our ELCAT YouTube channel, ELCAT 01028. Follow us on Facebook and watch us on cable channel 191 and 193. For cable channel times, make sure to check out our ELCAT program guide, available at the Town Hall, Library, and Senior Center. Also check your mail as the programs will be delivered monthly within the reminder. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Green. Thanks for watching. See you next week.